Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Salma, Kazi, Wahab, and welcome to this very special program on this very significant day, October 7th, a day that will ring in our minds and hearts for years and years to come. And while many say it started way before that, decades old, the struggle of the Palestinians and this ongoing genocide and the Nakba and the stories and the pictures of everything that we've been seeing and the legacies, the peoples, the heroes that have been lost through the struggle. So many things to talk about, so much to remember. But October 7th is a significant date in a lot of ways. A lot changed around the world. Perspectives changed. Action changed. A global intifada, as some may call it. But it is certainly a movement that has shaped the world in an entirely different light. Joining me in studio today is none other than Nasiha Soomar, a very well-known activist on the ground here in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, somebody behind a lot of these rallies and protest action that we're seeing. She's one of the first people that's on call every time there's something or the other happening in Durban. She's on everyone's speed dial. So thank you, Nasiha, for being in studio with me today. Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam, and thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you in this capacity on this very significant day, of course. And like I said at the beginning, to many people, they say, no, it started way before that, which is true and it's valid. It did start before that. And we all know the story. We know the history. We understand it more than anyone else. But October 7th shifted gears.
Yes, most definitely.
And I remember very clearly that moment when we saw the video start to go viral of what was happening, and you saw them sitting on those tankers, and all of a sudden everything's going, and I remember sharing it on groups, are you watching what's happening? And little did we even think, it reminded me almost of September 11th and all of that, because the media just went wild with it. But for somebody like yourself that was in this activism space, how did that change things for you?
Okay, well, to be honest, I was in the movement of Palestine and the struggle of Palestine long before. But on October 7th, there was quite a big lull between, I want to say, 22 to 23. Like, you know, there was not a lot happening. Yes, Gaza was still under siege. Yes, Palestine was still facing occupation, apartheid. But when October 7th happened, a dear sister of mine, Dr. Lubna Nadvi, who is my mentor, my sister, my lecturer, a lot of things
she's
to
an
me.
icon.
She's an icon.
She is.
She put out a call and she said, look, we're going to go to City Hall steps and we're going to do a vigil for what's happening in Palestine. And I think that marked the change for me from just being an attendee to someone who is now put forward in a position of somewhat leadership and to take charge and to organize and do everything that nobody sees behind the scenes. So yeah, that's how it happened. And from the 7th of October, we met on City Hall steps and we started working and we started realizing that we can't ever stop at now. Like, this just pushed it forward to the fact that, yes, it's going to become a global revolution. I mean, she's a political scientist. I've studied political science under her. So very familiar. We could see that the changes of this attack that happened, or this retaliation from Hamas or the resistance faction in Gaza to Israel, they were finally taking charge and saying, you know what, enough is enough.
Yeah.
You know, our people cannot be besieged anymore. And someone said the other day, one of our other activists, it's Gaza or the sky. And that sums it up so perfectly, because this was the final thing. This was the final time that they were coming. This operation was the final time. And it's resistance or death.
Because everything came out after that, because you saw all the theories that came out after that. There was no beheaded babies. There was none of the other things. Everything was, you saw people that actually went back to the site, and we remember how the reporters were called out from mainstream media. We remember all of that. Those videos that went viral, they went back to the site of the supposed festival and the burnt cars, and people said, but the maths wasn't mathing. A lot of it was just, a lot of it was just theoretical. They said, no, this can't be be true. The headline was wrong, and this was false information. And I think the world just woke up and they realized they were being fed the wrong information.
We saw interviews with like Bassem Youssef and stuff who said, yes, what was the original number that Israel put out? 1,400.
Yeah.
And then they downed it to 800. And then when you really went into it, it was only like 300. Yes, maybe 7 citizens and 300 active personnel who are not counted as citizens. They serve for the Israeli occupation forces. They are the people committing the horrors in Gaza and Palestine and West Bank. So the narrative has changed on a global perspective, which we never ever saw. We always saw people get outraged and angry when something small happened or something even big happened, and it would continue for a day or two, maybe a month at most, and then everyone would get quiet again. There was no sustained pressure or anything of the sort. And on October 7th, the way Israel reacted to Hamas and the way the US also made the Israel seem so victim-like, you could see that this was going to last a little bit longer. I don't think anyone at that point on the 7th of October thought that it would get to this point. I don't think that we ever thought that it would become a genocide.
I don't think anyone even imagined to see this, to be able to show it to our children.
Yeah,
it's hard, but it reaches a point where some people almost don't want to show it too much to their children, or maybe are not looking as much on their phones at it, or maybe they've just become so numb, like you mentioned as well. They're just so used to it. And I think maybe at certain points when there's ceasefire now and there's certain protest action, everyone comes out in their numbers. Well, not everyone necessarily, but you see the numbers in the UK. You've seen it was it Australia where they cut the entire bridge. Yeah. And you're seeing how many people are waking up to it in Hollywood as well, with so many different events. So you are seeing an awakening, but you're also seeing the opposite, where you're seeing a lot of people are just like, okay, we prefer not looking at it. We're going to put our blinders on because there's nothing we can do.
The sad reality of that is that in South Africa, we're a country that went through the most. Yeah. We wear the stories of apartheid on our sleeves, and we keep it in our heart, and we are led by people like Mandela and Biko and all of these people that were revolutionaries. Mm-hmm. And they said that our freedom is incomplete without the Palestinian freedom. But we see such apathy in South Africa compared to the rest of the world. The United States, the United Kingdom, we have 8-year-olds being arrested for standing up for Palestine. We have 8-year-olds being arrested for standing up for Palestine. And they have led the charge in the sense that we may have taken them to the ICJ, but they are leading the protests. They are leading the awakening on a global scale. And here in South Africa, we're lucky if we get 30 people to protest. We have a picket every Friday, and we're joyous when we get 30 people. And people are not showing they care. They're hooting, they're reposting, they're sharing on their stories, but that's not enough. It may have been enough on the 8th of October and the 9th of October 2023, and even if you want to say in December 2023, but now in 2025, 2 years of watching a live streamed genocide on our phones, on our WhatsApp groups, on our family groups, and not doing anything about it, I can't understand the apathy. I can't. And sometimes they say, people like me, activists, are too radical. We're too radical. We only breathe Palestine. We only talk about Palestine. Nothing else is on our mind. And my question is then, how can anything else be on our mind when we, as someone who has a political science background, an international relations background, and now a legal background, we've seen the failure of a political system. We've seen the failure of democracy. We've seen the failure of international law. And we've seen the failure of international relations. The entire system has been turned topsy-turvy, because we know that if this has to happen in the future, who will come to your call? If it was your children, if it was you being starved to death, if it was my child being starved to death or your child being starved to death, who would come to our call? Because No one's coming to the call of the Palestinians in Gaza. I mean, just this last week or whatever it may be, they're facing global blackouts once again. They have no connection to the world. They have no connection to even share their pain, share their starvation, share the fact that they're being killed while they're getting flour. So, and I question why South African youth and why South African women and men are so quiet. Why are we just, especially Muslims, why are we so quiet? Why are we not doing more, saying more, fighting more, resisting more?
Or selective fighting.
Or selective fighting, yes.
We're selectively available for protest.
Selectively available.
Yes, yes.
When it's a big protest, when it's a big march, when everybody's going to be there, then everybody is there. But when it comes to talking with our money, when it comes to boycotting, when it comes to asking our family members that stock Coke on their shelves, that own the supermarkets, why are you still stocking these products? Where are we? Then we say, no, we don't want to upset the apple cart. We don't want to offend anyone. And everyone should be offended. Everyone should be offended that your 15 rand by purchasing a Clover milk or purchasing a Coca-Cola product provides 4 to 6 bullets to kill a Palestinian child or a woman or a man.
Or for that matter, still going to the restaurants that we very much know everybody is boycotting around the world. In certain parts of the world, Malaysia and other places, those restaurants are closing down.
Yeah.
But let's take a quick break. And on the other side of this, we're joined by Nasiha, Soomar, and we're going to dig a little deeper into how the situation in Palestine has evolved over the years compared to when activism maybe first started pre-October 7th and now. Just how much of a dire situation are we actually looking at, and can we actually help? We'll talk about that at the other side of this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to this very special program on this very significant day of October 7th. With me in studio today is Sister Nasiha Soomar, also behind one of South Africa's most profound movements here, behind all those rallies. And you said before the break how you'd be lucky to even get 30 people at a protest these days, how hard, sometimes it's on trend, not on trend. It's very easy to come dressed up in the kafiyas or sing along to Anadami Falastini and feel like you're all fitting in with the protest and making enough noise. But the work actually is harder than that. But let's talk about the realities of the lives of the Palestinians. Pre-October 7th, you mentioned you were already involved in some sort of awareness and things like that. What do you think, or how has the situation actually evolved pre and post? When I look at it now, I see tents. I see people that now do not have access to medical care. From the beginning, even, we used to see the different hospitals they would get rushed to. Now you don't see that anymore. So how are people being treated? What are they eating? Where are they staying? And now you're seeing it almost like a concentration camp, where now it's just smaller and smaller. They're being displaced from one part to the next. How many are even left right now?
So when we started on, okay, let's talk pre-October 7th, right? Pre-October 7th, if you looked at Gaza and you spoke to people that were fortunate enough to visit Gaza,
right.
They spoke of the beauty of Gaza. They spoke of the people of Gaza that were the sweetest, the most kindest, the most hospitable people found anywhere. And yes, the life before October 7th was hard. I mean, they couldn't leave. They couldn't study abroad. Most children grow up to believe that this is what the world is like. This little besieged strip where I have UAVs watching me 24/7. I have drones in the skies 24/7 watching me. Is life, is normal. Yeah. This is what the whole world goes through, which is a far cry from what the whole world of freedom goes through. But post-October 7th, we now see that there's no more beautiful buildings, there's no more cafes, there's no more beaches, there's no more, there's nothing. Gaza is, and some people call it, I don't like to use this term because I believe in the people of Gaza and their sumud, but most people say Gaza is a wasteland at this moment in time. And I know we saw when BBC journalists went on that Spain mission to drop when Spain dropped the cargo from the airs, and then the BBC journalists were there, and they were not allowed to film under Israeli authority, but they did film. And when they came out, they posted it, like, you know, and it's just flattened. There's nothing left. Like, the pictures that we see coming out are tense. People are eating leaves and animal feed. Yes, there are charities happening and people drives where money is going into Gaza, but it's a population of, was 2.2 billion roughly, and now I would say it's about maybe 1.5, 1.6 million, because yes, the Palestinian ministry reports that 62,000 people have been killed or murdered, but the reality is that that is only taking into account the people who have been murdered via Israeli armed forces, through bombs, through snipers. That's not taking into the people that are dying of disease, malnutrition,
the children,
infections, wounds. There's no healthcare. The healthcare system has collapsed. There's no medication. There's no anesthesia. Women are giving birth and having C-sections with nothing. There's nothing. There's no supplies. No supplies are allowed in. And Israel controls that. Israel controls what supplies are getting into Gaza. So what is currently happening on the ground is that commodity trucks are allowed in. So people that are selling the goods, they are selling the goods to people that work for or volunteer for organizations around the world. And those organizations are paying premium for those vegetables and food to just be able to cook. I think the numbers were $5,000 for 4 pots of food.
Wow.
Which feeds, we know, an average day feeds about 100, 150 people. So that is, 600 people for $5,000. And I mean, really, how many $5,000 does the world have to give? And that impunity is that Gaza is starving. It is literally starving to death. And if the world doesn't act, it will starve to death, and we will be responsible for that.
When you see what happened some time ago with the global march to Gaza, right? We see how people have tried. People have tried their different ways of trying to help or trying to get there, or even get remotely close in different ways. But then you get people that say, this is above them. This is above you and I, above the average human being. This is a whole political game. What would you say to them?
Yes, a large part of this is political. It is a political struggle. Just like how apartheid South Africa was a political struggle, just like how the Holocaust was a political struggle. But it's never ever above anybody, because you and I can make a difference. If I boycott McDonald's, I boycott KFC, I boycott Coca-Cola, I boycott Clover, I boycott everybody. And that's all my money going not to them. So say I used to spend, and I'm not ashamed to say, pre-October 7th, I used to eat McDonald's, maybe, and KFC. I used to eat those things. And I used to spend maybe 1,000 Rand a month.
Yeah.
It's now 24 months that I haven't had anything. That's 24,000 Rand. Or 48,000 Rand. You know, it's relative in the sense that if you boycotted them for 24,000, I boycotted them for 24,000. The men outside the studio also boycotted them. That's 4 people. That's almost 100,000 Rand. And if 100 people do that, that's almost 1,000,000 Rand.
Yeah.
So it's not, when we say the people united will never be defeated in our chants, we mean it. The people united will never be defeated, because if every person actively boycotts, every single person has a chance to take away that economic power. Coca-Cola is not going to operate in occupied Israel if they are being boycotted for operating in occupied Israel. They will move from Israel to another country. And that is what you want to do. You want to be able to destabilize the Israeli economy. And that is your biggest mission with boycotts and divestment and sanctions. And BDS is something that every person can do. It's got nothing to do with politics. It has everything about turning the shelves into a battleground. And we saw the success of it. We saw the success of it in South Africa, when people refused to buy the fruit, the wine, the gold, and the shelves were turned into battlegrounds. I mean, we saw the images coming out of Ireland and stuff like that, when South African produce would just be laying in a trolley, just rotting. But why is it that the global north has to always take the responsibility of the global south?
Yeah.
Why isn't it the people of the global south that have the purchasing power and have the numbers and the populations
and the freedom?
And the freedom.
We have the freedom
more
to
than
boycott
in
more
the
than
UK. More than the global north. The global north are suffering because of their dictators and their leaders, and that are not leaders anymore. They've been proven that they're not leaders. They're not going to stand up. And if they do stand up, it's going to be performative. It's going to be words, not actions. We have our leaders behind us.
Yes.
You know, Dr. Pando said something so good to me. And she said to me, you have your government's 100% support. What you do with your government's 100% support is really up to you.
Absolutely. Before we're going to run out of time, I want to ask you, you've been at all of these protest actions, and I'm sure there's more that's going to come, especially now we are in such an intense time where now we know the plan. The plans are almost open. The cards are open now. The playing fields are now open. The cards have been revealed, so to speak. I'm struggling to find the right phrase that's used where they say everyone knows what's being played, what the motive is. Everybody knows now what's going on. What would you say now? If you could say anything, you were given the podium to talk to the world, what would you say?
I would say that the world needs to make a decision. They need to make a decision for themselves. They need to make a decision for their future children or their children at the moment. And they need to make a decision to choose to do the right thing. And the right thing is to stand up for justice. As a Muslim, as a human being, as a person, as part of the world that we live in, choose justice. Choose justice with your money. Choose justice with the fact that you earned this hard-earned money. But now you're going to, if you don't choose justice and you go and purchase that bottle of Coca-Cola or Clover or McDonald's or whatever is on the boycott list in your particular country, if you choose to purchase it, you're saying that my hard-earned money will go to kill a child in Palestine. And that's just the bottom line.
That's the choice you're making.
That's the choice you're making. You either going to kill children that look like your children, or you're not, by being deprived of something that is a want and not a need. Gaza needs water. You do not need Coca-Cola. And there are many alternatives. I mean, Palestine cola is really tasty. It's like Pepsi and Coca-Cola had a baby, and it's really good. You can drink it and nothing will happen to you. You will miss the Coca-Cola for a little while and then you'll get used to it.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. And to Gaza and to the people of Palestine, I truly don't have words to say for them. I can only say that I take lessons of your sumud and your resilience, and I will try and carry it and carry your name until the day that I draw my very last breath.
Inshallah, inshallah. May Allah reward you and all those you work with for your tireless efforts always. I remember, seeing all those visuals when you, like you said, stand on the street corners, be it where you're at the harbor, if a ship is coming in, you'll be on that sumud and flotillas on the beachfront. It's always, may Allah reward you and see all that you do for the good intentions that are there, and the rest of your team and the sincerity with which you'll do it. May Allah reward you and give you all that sense of fulfillment, inshallah, that it is being seen, it is being noticed, around the world, and many will talk about it for generations to come, and will remember
The
it that way,
fulfillment will
inshallah.
come when Palestine is free.
Inshallah, inshallah.
I mean.
That is where all our hearts and soul are at the end of the day. So much to reflect on, so much to think and consider about how far we've come in this past 24 months, but so much of responsibility rests on you and your shoulders at home. If you are going to continue to ignore, so too will the rest of the world, and the legacy and the stories of the Palestinians will then eventually fade away and just become another chapter of the history books where people will read and think about those days gone by when the people had to be displaced, how they were killed, how they were murdered and tortured. So it's something to definitely reflect on. We can change the course of history, inshallah, and it starts from you. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.